Spanning the globe to bring you the constant variety of art. It's the Tenant Podcast. I'm Todd Pearson, coming to you from the 40 West Arts District in Lakewood, Colorado. And joining me from his art bunker in Rapid City, South Dakota, you know him for his many feats, such as Norwegian death diving, being the 1974 runner-up in the National Spelling Bee, and of course his exceptional stunt work on many of your favorite 80s television programs. He's quite possibly the most interesting man in the world, my partner and friend, Wes Brown.
Oh my God, he's back. The quite possibly most interesting man in the world. He's back.
I figured it was time.
It was time. Oh my God, people have been asking me about that. When are you going to do another bit? So last week's bit was great. So anyway.
Bit? What are you talking about? Bit?
Yeah, bit with Sergio. Sergio was awesome. Yeah.
Sergio's a real dude.
I know that. I know that.
Okay.
And so is our production team.
Yes. But they are all on vacation this week. It's the end of summer. A couple of them have kids, so they're out vacationing. But, you know, next time around, everybody will be back. And we have a new writer, Bert Branson. Bert Branson. Yeah.
Bert Branson. All right. I don't get memos. So do we have a secretary that could send me this information about like who the new people are and what they're...
I'll have Serge send it to you.
Okay. Serge is like, they keep him pretty busy, huh? The intern.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Mostly running around the corner to get coffee, but that's all right.
Yeah. I've heard the baristas love him, by the way. So
he's easy on the eyes.
Yeah. That's what you said last week.
Yeah.
I've yet to see a picture of him yet, but that's the problem with living way up in Rapid City. I don't get I'm not in the trenches with the peeps, with all the, production crew and everything.
I would love for you to be here right now. Does it look like I have resting bitch face today? That's what my wife calls it, resting bitch face. She's like, you got resting bitch face. You need to lighten up, dude.
Lighten up. Well, I had an existential crisis. So even questioning my whole purpose in life. So, here's a little tidbit. I took the Tesla out. I know everybody hates Teslas. I took the Tesla out and went self-driving mode to all my deliveries. And so my car just drove and I just sat there and looked around and watched the traffic. And there was only 2 times I was like, I don't know if I trust you. And man, I call it Tessa. Imagine that. She was changing lanes and just driving. And I was just like, whoo, driving mode, loving it. So I'm spoiled. Now I want another one. Before I was like, oh, Tesla, I want to get rid of you.
I couldn't do that, man. I got to have control of the car.
It was beautiful.
And I can't even ride with my wife without it being a fight.
And I haven't taken Tonette in self-driving mode yet. So she'll probably like the driving better because she's always criticizing my driving. Like, do you always take corners that quick? That kind of stuff. And my friend of mine, Chris Quayle, shout out to Chris. He has a Cybertruck, and we went in that for a little spin, and that was fun. And so then I went in self-driving mode, and I was like, this is the life right here. I just wish I could sit in the back, because then it'd be really cool, but I can't.
Okay, I'm not going to say
James.
Anymore.
To work.
Just even talking about Tesla makes my stomach churn.
Yeah, I know.
Just so you know.
I know.
Did I ever send you that video of that dipshit that lived across the street from my sister?
No, you should.
He rented out. He had 8, 10 Teslas that he'd rent out, and then he would keep them at his house. And I think he had a second location somewhere. So there's a car service you can subscribe to, and then you can rent a Cybertruck or
Toro or something like that.
I don't know. Anyway, I don't know anything about that, but every night all these Teslas would be in his driveway, and he'd somehow sync them up, and they'd all play music and do some kind of light show. And she's like, I'd be putting the kids to bed, and this guy is doing this light show with his with his Tesla, and I'm like, I would be so irritated about that. I said, at the end, does Elon Musk's head pop out and then vomit all over him?
Oh, wow.
How does it end?
They got karaoke mode where you can sing. They got a fireplace, so you can put in fire mode, and you just sit there while I don't know when you'd use it, and it just is a crackling fire on your big screen. It's kind of interesting. does for Elon Musk fart noises. So that's another like a little Easter egg. I've used it once just to use it. Anyway, crazy stuff that engineers that are way too smart do. So anyway, Tesla story. That's it. We can move on. I know you don't like Teslas. I never thought I'd own
I don't
one.
like
I don't
Elon
know
Musk.
how the
I
hell
mean, more power to you. If you have a electric vehicle, I think that's phenomenal.
Yeah.
I just, he tainted the whole
right.
brand.
Yeah.
But whatever.
Yeah. Anyway,
there's a special place in hell for him.
Maybe he'll
That's
make
what
a
I
comeback.
wish for every day. And obviously Elon Musk is not part of the equation anymore, but he did kind of kick off all this nonsense or help kick off all this nonsense. So every night, I know you're not much into the whole prayer thing, but every night I kneel down by my bed and pray to God that a big fucking sinkhole opens up under the White House and sucks the whole clown cartel and Donald Trump down into the depths of hell.
All right. So I don't know where our current guest stands. So, but anyway.
Yeah, I guess. Sorry, I didn't mean to make it political, but we went there.
We did.
Had to mention your Tesla,
and by the way, the Queen of Ice, Kristi Noem, called me and said, "I really don't want to be called the Queen of Ice, but I just said, look, hon, you're people outing people. I'm gonna call you the Queen of Ice." So anyway, we'll continue with stories about Kristi Noem and her experiences. For those that don't know, Kristi Noem was the governor of South Dakota, so I feel I'm obliged to talk about
throw
Kristi.
shade.
Mm-hmm. A little bit. Anyway, but we got Larry Roden now, so there we go. Anyway, should we talk smart?
Yeah. Let's talk smart.
Let's talk.
You're gonna have to hold my hand tonight, man.
I'm gonna edit.
I've been fighting a headache all day. I slept on my head, and so I got this knot in my neck.
If I was there right now,
and my wife is gone because she usually gets in there and breaks it up, and
I would be using my elbow in there. I would just work it. You know me. I just work it.
Well, it's only a little over 6 hours and 400 miles. Can you come down? And
I can be there. After we get done with this, I'll jump in the Tesla self-drive mode. I'll nap all the way, and I'll just paint eyes on my glasses so it thinks I'm looking. And it'll show up at your house.
Okay.
All right. Let's do some art.
Our guest this week is a phenomenal artist, gallerist, and an integral part of the arts community here in Denver. You can check out her wonderful work at NicoleKorbe.com and her gallery website, NKollectiv.com. And that's KOLLECTIV, no E. And follow her on Instagram on her various Instagram handles, Nicole_Korbe_art at NKollectiv. Nicole Korbe, thank you for putting up with us and joining us this evening to talk about your art practice and all the wonderful things that you are involved in.
Thank you. That was quite the lovely introduction. I'm happy to be here with you guys. And yes, you're in good company with the political conversation. It's all good. Trust me.
I was nervous for a minute there.
No, you don't have to be nervous. I'm on Todd's side when it comes to Tesla. I think you should sell that damn thing and get a Nissan. That's what I have.
I've had a Nissan. I would never, a Toyota maybe. I used to have an FJ and I miss it so much. So.
Well, no, I mean an electric car. I'm leasing the Nissan Ariya for one of those really cheap lease rates that they were offering at the end of last year, and it's awesome.
So it does pretty well?
Yeah. I mean, I've never driven a Tesla, but I can't imagine that this is worse.
And I don't think you should drive a Tesla if you don't want to. You shouldn't have to expose yourself to that.
Well, it's all because of Elon. Before that, they were fine.
Well, and I got it before he went to the dark side. I got it from a friend of a friend, and I mean, it pulled in my he pulled in my driveway. It was blue, and I said, sold. So there we go.
Well, and I think in Colorado, so many people have them for good reasons that I certainly don't hold it against anyone for having them, because most of them had them before.
You're not lighting Teslas on fire on the weekend or anything.
I am not.
I'm
definitely
neither
not.
Confirm or deny.
I don't have time for that.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah.
All right. So much for Tesla talk. Good God.
Yeah.
Elon has got
Yeah.
a lot of mileage on this podcast already.
Yeah, we should not give him any more, really. No, let's talk about art.
Let's do it.
You grew up in one of my favorite states, New Mexico. Is that correct?
That's right.
It is. Yes, at least for the first half of childhood, if you want to call it that. Yeah, from 0 to 12, I was in Northwest New Mexico, in a little town called Grant. It was the uranium capital of the world. And that's how my parents ended up there. My dad was a geologist. And it was wonderful as a kid, as a nerdy little nature geek. I loved it so much. We lived on the side of a mesa, and all I did was run around and catch tarantulas and snakes, and occasionally like step in cactus and be very sad about that. But for the most part, it was just a fantastic childhood. Loved it.
Here's a little New Mexico story. I went to Pie Town the only week they're closed, Christmas.
Oh, well, that's too bad.
So I stopped. They were closed. I said, see you next time.
Yeah.
Kind of a cool little place, but I seen it on the news and I was like, well, I'm going. It was a little out of my way, so that was kind of wah. But anyway, so both Todd and I love New Mexico. I mean, it's a great state. It's beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is. And I ended up back there. My family drugged me to Oklahoma when I was 12, and I went to high school there and such. And then I basically went back to New Mexico as quickly as I could.
Yeah.
So
where in Oklahoma were you at? Oh, I'm sorry, Todd.
No, that's fine.
Where in Oklahoma?
Oklahoma City.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Wow. Jeez.
Well, there's some culture there.
Well, yeah, but I mean, we're going from Grants, New Mexico to Oklahoma City. That's
that's true. It's not two different environments.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, on the one hand, Grants was such a small town. So yeah, there was more of certain types of culture, I suppose, in Oklahoma City because it's a bigger city. That is kind of where I got more into art in high school. But yeah, I don't know. It wasn't all bad. It was good. Life takes you wherever it takes you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So.
And there are art museums there, right?
Yes. And actually, Tulsa is where I would go in high school. I was part of this little artsy group in my high school, and we did field trips up to Tulsa a couple times to go to the Gilcrease Museum and the other one, which the name is escaping me right now, but that was always fun. And I'm sure there was one in Oklahoma City at the time, but for whatever reason, I don't remember going there. I have been there since then as an adult, and it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Good one. Yeah.
The Flaming Lips are from Oklahoma City.
They certainly are. Yes. Yep. And they still live there. At least as far as I know, Wayne still lives in Oklahoma City. And yeah, I have friends that know him, and
oh, wow.
I've met him briefly once, and he and his wife adopt all the stray dogs in the neighborhood, and it's just really lovely.
Oh.
Right on.
That's all I know about them, really.
That's a pretty nice story.
I love that.
Yeah. As a fellow dog lover, I have an appreciation for that. And I actually do like their music, so even better.
Yeah, I do too. It's great.
Did you ever see them in concert, like playing around Oklahoma City?
I did once, but I didn't really realize what I was seeing and how great they were at the time. Yeah.
Was it just weird?
I was in high school, and it was like a warehouse thing, and I walked in and my friends were like, we got to go somewhere else. And so if I had known really what I was seeing, I would have definitely stuck around and been like, no, we really need to stay here. So I've seen them at Red Rocks since I've been in Colorado, but yeah, I don't really have a vivid memory of seeing them in Oklahoma City, unfortunately. But
gotcha.
Yeah.
So you were very creative as a child. Is that correct? Were you taking art classes and that sort of thing when you were in high school? In
high school, yeah, I got really into it. For a minute, I even thought, oh, maybe I'm going to go to college for art therapy. And this is just really cool. And I love the way art makes me feel. But that didn't really happen. But yeah, I loved it. It was kind of the art teacher at the school I went to. He was just a very gentle soul. And I really didn't love my high school at the time. It was a Catholic high school, and I just never really felt that I fit in with the other kids, which that's not unique. A lot of us are like that in high school. But in art classes, I just felt like I could be me, and with the other artsy kids, I could be me. We could go off to the museums and just, forget about the rest of the world. It was great.
So were you pretty shy?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Really?
Yep. Very. And in fact, as a really young child, I was so shy that my parents sent me to kindergarten twice, because I was just like terribly shy.
Wow.
And scared of everything. And I don't know why. I mean, I wasn't scared of anything when I was out running around in nature and catching snakes, which most people are scared of, but I was scared of people. So yeah, I don't know. There's probably something to unpack there, but that's a different podcast.
Right. Let's psychoexamine.
Well, I find that fascinating because I would never have guessed that you were, because you're so engaging and outgoing, and obviously that's part of who you are and what what you do. But
Right.
I would never have guessed that you were that shy.
Yeah, definitely. And even now, like, being the center of attention, like doing this, I'm not overly comfortable with the idea of it, but talking about what I do and art and where life has taken me with this whole business with the gallery and the larger art space that I have now it's my passion. So I love talking about it.
Right on.
But,
Nice.
if we were talking, I don't know. I don't love public speaking, for example.
Sure.
I hate that still, really hate it. But yeah, I've definitely come out of my shell since I was 5. That's which is good.
Yeah.
Well, you're very well spoken, so you have nothing to worry about. But public speaking is it is hard, and you have to kind of get yourself in the right frame of mind and kind of practice it.
Yep.
So you didn't go to art school. What path did you choose instead?
Yeah, I ended up getting a degree in biology, with an emphasis in botany. Going back to the nature freak side of me, that's the side I decided to pursue in school, and kind of wanted to, when I went into biology, so not microbiology, but field biology is what I went into. And I did that because I wanted to go into environmental work and save the world. But I'm kind of glad I didn't end up really trying that hard to do that, because look at where we are now. I would be so sad if I dedicated my whole life to trying to save the world.
Well, I mean, it's a very great occupation to have. We need warriors, right, that are
We
fighting
need them
for the
so
environment.
bad. Yeah.
But I
And
get
I
it.
don't mean to make light of that at all. I mean,
No,
those people,
we're not taking it that way. No.
yeah.
I totally get what
But
you're saying.
yeah, it would be heartbreaking, and it is heartbreaking. But anyway, so that's kind of why I went into biology, went to UNM in Albuquerque, and got to spend some really great time out in the field doing desert field biology surveys and all kinds of things. It was just so much fun. I loved it.
What was fun about it?
Oh gosh, because it just put me back where I was as a kid, right? I'm like out hiking around, just looking for life. And I was on the plant crew, so it was maybe not as exciting as going out to doing the wildlife surveys, but just being in nature is where I feel calm and safe. And that and my studio, it's those two things are what make me feel whole.
So how long did you work in that, or did you actually work in botany?
I did with the degree. I ended up getting jobs in environmental consulting firms. Started out as the field front, doing wetland delineations and all kinds of other surveys, black-footed ferret surveys in Wyoming, and like all kinds of crazy things. And then just ended up becoming a project manager in the environmental firm. A lot of the clients that we had were electric utility industry clients. And so then that led to me being hired on by one of those power company clients as an environmental planner.
Oh,
and still doing, kind of the environmental side of things for several years with the industry side, doing NEPA, which is the National Environmental Policy Act assessments. So environmental impact statements and assessments for all these big projects where we were crossing federal lands or there was some federal nexus that required all this really in-depth environmental studies. Then I got snatched up by the engineering department in the same company to be a project manager on that side of things, which was actually pretty fun for a while.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, you're the good guy, right? In this whole thing, it's like, I mean, you maybe made some people at your company mad, or but you're doing good work, trying to
Yes,
lessen the impact that the organization is having. So that's
exactly. I
amazing.
always, that's what I always told myself too, is that, this is not really what you expected to be doing when you got a biology degree, but somebody who cares, somebody who
Right.
gives a shit, right, needs to be in this position to make sure these projects, go the way they should go and don't do unnecessary harm to the environment.
Yeah. Do you think your time there was successful?
I think it was. One thing that made me a little restless was a lot of the projects that they gave me. So I was working on large transmission line projects, so the really big high voltage lines. And I ended up with a lot of the projects that were either the most controversial or, well, yeah, usually the most controversial and just the hardest to build, which, sure, I'll take that as a compliment. They thought I could handle it. Because of that, they rarely got built. Or they just took decades and decades. But usually they ended up, after several years of really putting a lot of work and effort into these projects, they would sometimes just fizzle out and go away. And the company would say, okay, that's not going to work. We're going to try something else. So it didn't really give me a sense of fulfillment.
Sure.
It's like, okay, another one bites the dust. And I was a little restless there.
Sure.
Towards the end of that job, for sure.
Yeah, I could understand that.
At what point do you decide that this isn't really where you feel like you want to be or need to be in your life, and you decide to pivot to art and going all in on that?
Right. So this, the whole life leads us to unexpected things. I would every so often just undertake some kind of creative little hobby or project to make myself feel balanced. And usually it would be something I'd pick up for a little while and do for a few months, get really into it, and then be like, okay, and put it aside, move on. And so one day I decided to do that with painting. I thought, I have a big wall right there in the house. Why not just pick up some paints and see what happens? And so I did that, and I set up in my dining room at the time, and I started just playing with acrylic paint, and I could not stop. I didn't know what the heck was happening. I just couldn't stop. It just took over my life. And I just was creating all these things, and certainly not necessarily all good things, but I was just, all these paintings were just building up, and you couldn't even use the dining room anymore at all. So I thought, well, I'm pretty sure artists have studios. There's studios in this town. Let's go see if I can find a studio. And because I still had my job, so I was like, I have some expendable income. I can rent a little studio somewhere. And so one thing led to another, and it just took over gradually.
Wow.
Actually, not gradually at all.
if you're being honest, right?
Uh-huh.
So what were some of the things that you were experimenting and trying before you glommed onto the painting? What were some of those other activities?
So I got really into photography for a while, like just with, a little digital camera and taking photos, very close-up photos of flowers, and going to the botanic gardens and going into the conservatory and taking really close up photos of plants and blowing them up and then making little things for friends out of them. At one point I got into like little craftsy jewelry type stuff, and I don't know, using decorative papers to make random things like magnets, giving them to people. I made jewelry holders at one point, which kind of married both of those things together. The photography, I framed the photographs and then hung these or attached these little metal branch things to the frames so you could hang jewelry off of them, and then again gave those to friends as gifts, and got really into that. I was like, oh man, I should sell these on Etsy. And but I never did. Just kind of fizzled out.
Sure.
So nothing overly complicated, but just something that at least exercised that other side of my brain.
Yeah. Have you always been that person? Like you have to make something, have to do something. You're not like going to just chill, sit around.
Yeah, I have a bit of a problem with that. Yeah. I have a hard time sitting still. Again, probably another podcast to unpack all that.
So do you tend to be a very focused person, or do you kind of have that artist ADD that, a lot of us have?
Yeah, I think what I'm realizing is that I do have quite a bit of the ADD or ADHD, but I can get hyper focused, which, is a certain type of that, right? That happens. But, and I have days that are better than others when it comes to that. Like sometimes running this business, there's so many different things that I have to do. And I have days where I'm like, okay, I can hyper focus and I can do this. And other days I'm like, I don't even know where to begin. And I get that paralysis a little bit. But yeah, I think overall, I've always been a really hard worker. At every job I've had, I've been a bit of a workaholic. And I wouldn't say I'm always dialed in with the focus, but yeah, I can tap into that when I really need to. So
are you a perfectionist?
Not as much as I used to be. Yeah. Not as much as I used to be.
So you've been able to let some of those things go over time.
Yeah. I think as I've gotten older, I think most of us hopefully reach a point where we're like, you know what, some of that stuff is just not that important. What is important? What can we really prioritize and focus on?
So you had some expendable income and you rent a space, a studio that you can work out of because your house is quickly becoming your own personal storage unit for all the works of art that you're making. Where does it go from there?
So it's interesting. I initially rented a studio at Grace up in Globeville, the Globeville Riverfront Art Center. Wonderful place. Loved it so much. And, once I got my first studio there, I felt so welcomed into the artist community, and which I really didn't know anything. And this is part of my insecurity still sometimes is like, okay, I'm really pretty new to all this world, right? But over the last 10 years, I've really submersed myself into it. But starting out there, I was like, I don't know why. I felt like an outsider at first going into that world, but oh my gosh, it was just such a wonderful experience. Like finding that tribe again. It was like going back to that artsy group in high school where I just felt so at home, and it was just fantastic. So I had a couple different studios there, and then I moved on. I've had so many studios. It's ridiculous. Like I've had, I think counting where the one I have now here at EASEL, I think I've had like 14 studios.
Holy cow.
That's crazy.
It's been a bit ridiculous. So it's kind of, in a way, that's been really good because I've gotten to know different communities every time, right?
Yeah.
And yeah,
because it's pretty diverse, and it's I tell people all the time, like there's all these different like collectives and pockets of different artists that kind of run together, right? And so you moving studio space that many times, you got to experience a lot of different groups, I would imagine.
Absolutely, yeah. And then one of the bigger things that I ended up getting into was I joined Artists on Santa Fe Gallery in the art district on Santa Fe, and Macy Dorf's gallery there at 747 Santa Fe. And that really was probably what led me to being where I am now. As far as I was submersed in the gallery life for a bit. It's basically a co-op, true co-op there, management by committee, and everybody has to work certain number of shifts per month and all of that. So that really exposed me to that world of the co-op gallery. And I thought it was just really fun. It was great. I loved being part of it. But I also was like, man, I just wish I could have something like this of my own where I could have my studio in the same spot, which for a while my studio was in the same building. I was studioing out of Artists on Santa Fe. I had a few different studios over the years there. And the last one I had there was phenomenal. It was great. I loved it. But it was upstairs and the gallery was downstairs. And I was just like, man, it would be so nice just to be able to work and paint and greet people and show them art, not just my art, but everybody's art who's part of the gallery. And that's what sort of started in my brain with, maybe I could do something like that, do it myself and do it my own way. So that's kind of where that led. And then in the meantime, I had quit my job. I had quit the well-paying job. So I didn't really have expensive income anymore, but I was just finding ways to make it work.
So
go ahead, Wes.
I was just going to say,
going down the same path I am.
Yeah. What was the catalyst? When did you how did you realize oh, I can take this leap now and either be all right, or the courage to do it? Because that's what I lack, is the courage to leap when it comes to something like that. How did you manage that?
Yeah. So, there's been a few leaps, right? Like the first big leap was quitting the job and, putting that security kind of behind me. And I think that I became really stubborn about it. And I had asked to go part-time because I thought, if I could just work part-time, because a lot of the projects I had been working on were starting to fizzle again, because at that point I was working on some projects to electrify natural gas wells, and then the gas industry completely flipped and it wasn't thriving anymore. They weren't even doing new wells or drilling new wells or any of that. So work had really slowed down, and I thought, well, this is a win-win situation for both of us, for the company and for me. Why don't I go part-time? And it was a very old school company, and they were like, we don't do part-time. What are you talking about? We don't do that. And so then I think after a couple months, I just kept thinking about it, and I thought, you know what? Screw it. I'm not happy here anymore. If I can't put more of my time into art, I'm just going to continue to be very restless and unhappy and unsatisfied. So I'm going to hope for the best, and I'm going to quit my job. And I don't know. When you ask, how did I find the courage to do that? I think it was just kind of maybe not the brightest idea, but I did it anyway.
The next morning was like, oh, I did what?
But sometimes that's the best way to do it, is just go all in, go for broke, right? Then it really forces your hand to make something happen.
It does. And, I thought, well, if I have to, and I did end up doing this, if I have to clean houses to get by, I will. And I kind of pulled from what I did in college. So my parents both passed away when I was a teenager, separate times. But so when I went to college, I didn't go straight through, got diverted with all kinds of things. But when I finally said, okay, I'm going to go back full time, and I quit whatever job I had at that time, which actually sounds crazy, but I was working at Sandia National Labs in Albuquerque. in microelectronics research without any kind of a degree. I was just doing that. And so I quit that job too to go back to school full time. And so I had kind of done this before in a totally different sense, but similar thing where I quit a job that I really didn't feel like was me, and I needed to pursue something, which at the time was my degree. And when I did that, I just started cleaning houses and started my own business. And that's how I put myself through the last couple of years of college. So I think, I don't even know how old I was, 45, when I decided to quit my job at the power company. I was like, well, I'll be fine. I'll figure it out. If I have to clean houses, I will. And I did.
Wow.
For a while. Yeah. So
I think that's pretty spectacular, put a plan in place and make it happen. And obviously, like you said, you have an experience of being, self-reliant, putting your nose to the grindstone and making something happen. So you proved to yourself in your youth that you could do that. And then later on in life, you do it again. It's like, I've been here before. I've done this. Let's do it. Let's get it done. Right.
Yep. Absolutely. So again, I don't know if it was Bryce's decision, but that's probably where I had the cojones to do it, is from the past experience. Yeah.
Now, in situations like that, a lot of times, I mean, you mentioned that your parents had unfortunately passed, but usually there's people from outside that are like, are you really sure you want to do this? Are you sure you're making the right decision? Did you have any of that within your community of people that were like, what are you doing? This is crazy.
Yes, I did. So my husband at the time, so now my ex-husband, yes, possibly partly because of that. And then my sister, who's also she and I are very close. She lives here too. And she would tell you herself, she's not a risk taker when it comes to that. And I was always very practical too. So it was pretty shocking to a lot of people, I think, that they're like, you're going to do what? And she definitely was like, okay, are you sure about this? And how are you going to make this work? And I'm like, I don't know, but I'm going to figure it out. If I have to go back and get another job, another corporate job, surely I can, right? Like, I don't know. And I probably could have gone back to that company or other, I knew I had a big network in that industry that I could have gone back if I needed to, but I really didn't want to.
Would you consider that was even a safety net though? Or did you even think about like, oh, I can always go back? Or did you just go?
Yeah, I did think about it. And actually, to be fair, I did go back there. So during, actually right before COVID, I didn't go back in the full-time sense, but I started doing some contract work for Excel Energy because I had friends that worked there. And so I was doing some part-time contract work, because after doing the odd jobs and the handy woman work and the cleaning people's houses, it was starting to take its toll physically. And I realized that, yeah, this is a way to be more stubborn about doing it my own way, but I don't have the energy that I want to have for painting anymore because I'm so worn out. Like, I'm not 20 something anymore. I'm 40 something now doing that same work. And it's a lot harder now than it was in college.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, your practical side kicked in and said, hey, look, I got the skill set and I have this opportunity. So, I can continue to trash my body or I can go back to something I know. And I would imagine that contract work and the field that you were working in was a pretty good deal. That's nothing to sneeze at. And, you go back and you do some of this work for a little bit to just kind of reset, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I did. And then, they were grateful. They actually approached me with it. And I was like, that's as much as I don't want to, I should. And then, so I did that I really don't know the timeline, maybe a year and a half or 2 years. And then in that time frame is when I started NKollectiv. And at a certain point, I finally said, okay, this is taking too much of my bandwidth. The gallery is taking too much of my bandwidth, and I don't want to have to give that up for the other job. And so I figured I was doing well enough between the gallery and art festivals, mainly art festivals at that point still, that I was like, I think I can do this, and I'm just going to take another leap of faith and do it again.
Yeah.
So you're a painter. Talk
Yes.
about what you do as a painter and the mediums that you work with.
Yes. So initially, as mentioned, I started out in acrylic, and was sort of the process I was playing with a lot, just self-taught. I mean, YouTube a bit, but mostly just self-taught, just kind of doing whatever came to me intuitively. I ended up doing a lot of layering and scraping and layering and scraping. And with acrylic, it dries so fast, but I was still getting some really amazing effects, and I liked it. I got some pretty interesting pieces out of it. But after a year or so, I was like, oh, let me move on to oils and try that out. And the reason I just feel like I have to give the history of this in order to talk about the medium I use now. But so I started playing with oils and trying to do the same thing. And I'm like, oh, well, that's not going to work because it doesn't dry fast enough. So I need this, like, the Goldilocks medium. And somebody was like, you need to try cold wax. I'm like, what the heck's cold wax? Like, I don't understand, does not compute at all. And so then I looked that up. I went out and bought the book. There's a book called Cold Wax Medium. Not a very exciting title, but that's the Bible of cold wax. And the reason that is so awesome is because when you add that to oil paint, it helps it set up a little faster. And it lets you do all these layers that you can do, in a bit of a shorter amount of time. And then I can still scrape through, and some of it stays on and some of it comes off, and you don't really know what you're going to get, but it always is something really fun. And if it's not, you just add more layers and do it again. And it was perfect. It was the happy medium, so to speak. No pun
I love
intended.
that.
Yeah. And so that's the medium that I primarily work in. But I also do some encaustic work as well, which I got into during COVID because I had time to experiment with something different.
So talk briefly about, for the listeners that don't know the difference, talk about encaustic and then talk about cold wax and how they are similar and different.
Yep. So cold wax is beeswax. Mostly it's beeswax-based medium. They both are, but cold wax has solvent in it. So some type of mineral spirit solvent type thing that makes it soft and mushy at room temperature. So it looks a lot like Crisco, and you can mix it right in with the oil paint. So the two are integrated together. It doesn't really change the color. It does make it a little more matte, but it still stays vibrant. Makes it a little more matte and a little more translucent. But and then, like I said, it helps it set up faster. And then as the cold wax is exposed to oxygen, the solvent evaporates and it fully cures and hardens.
Oh, how long does that take process-wise?
So in Colorado, not too long, really. Like, depending on how thick you apply it.
Sure.
So since I tend to apply a lot of layers, but then I do a lot of scraping, the end product isn't super thick, so it does set up pretty fast, and it cures probably within 2 or 3 weeks.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And then the encaustic medium is also beeswax based, but it has a tiny bit of damar resin in it, which helps it cure harder than the beeswax would on its own. So encaustic, unlike cold wax, encaustic is solid at room temperature. So you have to heat it up. So it's also called hot wax painting, encaustic painting. So the medium is just the beeswax with the damar resin, which is the tree sap resin. And then if you add pigment to it or buy it with the pigment already in it, then that's called encaustic paint.
Okay.
And so you have to heat it up on a hot plate to just under 200 degrees, and you brush it onto the surface. And usually there's also a lot of layers involved in that. And each layer that you add, you have to reheat it so it fuses to the layers of wax beneath it. So, because if you think of just layers of wax on wax on wax, it's going to be a little fragile, right? Like it's going to cleave off of each other. But if you reheat it, and then it all kind of becomes one cohesive layer.
Is one medium more toxic than the other? Is the solvents more toxic, or the fact that you're heating wax more toxic?
So a lot of people think that encaustic is pretty toxic, and it can be if you overheat it. So you don't want it to get to the point where it's smoking.
Okay.
So you want to keep it just at that just under 200 degree mark. And then the solvents in the cold wax, I mean, I'm not going to eat it.
Right. But do they put off a fumes, a smell? Or not really?
It does have a little bit of a smell, but it's not super strong.
Okay.
I don't think it is, but
sure.
Maybe I'm just, used to it. Maybe I've already killed all the brain cells.
But you prefer the cold wax over the encaustic?
The cold wax is more my mainstay, especially for large pieces. I'm never going to probably be the encaustic artist that works really large. Like Kelly Austin Rollo, one of my gallery artists, she does these amazing, huge paintings in encaustic, and just the workspace it takes to do that. And I'm just not going to go there with encaustic. So I love cold wax and oil, and for larger pieces, yeah, that's what I like to use. I do get into the mood sometimes to use encaustic, and I'll go through for a couple weeks and just do a bunch of those because it's also fun. But now that my studio is here, I did leave my encaustic setup in my basement studio at home. So I am doing more cold wax, probably because of the proximity to gallery. And,
Gotcha.
I'm here a lot. So that could be part of it too. But I don't consider myself to be an expert in encaustic, well, nor cold wax really. But I feel like I'm a bit more specialized with the cold wax than I am with encaustic.
Okay. Gotcha. I've read where, obviously you're very intuitive with your work, but also memory and place plays an important part in it. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, usually when I'm painting, I don't set out to create a specific location or a specific composition based on a specific location. And I like to just let the process guide me. But I started realizing if I'm doing a natural landscape, because I work primarily in 3 different types of compositions: natural landscape, cityscape, or pure abstract. If I'm doing more of the impressionistic natural landscape and not really trying to think of anywhere specific, sometimes what I was finding is when it was done, I would realize, oh, I totally recognize where that is. I don't think I'm overly unique in that. I think that's something a lot of artists experience. But, I feel like it's just all these places I've been, especially New Mexico as a kid, keeps coming out in a lot of the pieces.
Mm.
Yeah.
We talked to another painter recently, and I'd never thought about it. I mean, you're working intuitively, but do you have a specific area or place that you start when you paint? And this particular person always works a canvas a certain way. Do you do the same thing, or is it just whatever strikes your fancy?
I'd say like the starting out part is pretty consistent. I work on wood panels always, but whether it's encaustic or cold wax, I start with the cold wax just by putting down base layers. And usually I just pick some colors that I'm in the mood to use, right? So I most often will start with either white or a really dark color like Payne's gray. It looks black for all intents and purposes, but I'll start with either the light or the dark. And then I'll start just layering contrasting colors over that. out of whatever the colors are that I chose to work with. And then just things usually sort of start to look like something. If I'm doing a landscape anyway, like they'll start to look, I'll start to see a horizon line, or I'll start to see some kind of feature that I want to continue to explore that and develop that a little bit further. Or if I'm trying to stay true abstract, then I try really hard not to develop specific areas with too much thought, but sometimes that doesn't work either. So sometimes I'm like, oh, well, there we go. Here's another landscape again. So, and if that's what it wants to be, that's what it wants to be. And I've learned not to fight that.
Mm.
So does emotion play into this, like the colors that you're choosing for a particular piece?
I think so. I think especially like with the cityscapes, I would say my emotions play more into those maybe. And if I'm feeling a little more unsettled, like I have been a lot lately because of so many interesting things going on in the world, they start to take on a little more of a dystopian look to them, which I kind of love, but I don't know that everybody does, or even sometimes the dystopian part can be so subtle that I think some people just don't pick up on it, but I see it. Yeah.
So let's talk about one of these cityscapes. So this is on Nicole's Instagram, and it's a cityscape entitled Mixed Messages, and it's 46 by 46. So pretty large. And you mentioned you work mostly with wood panels.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you like wood panel over other like canvases or other substrates or whatever?
Right. So for me, with all of the scraping that I do, and speaking of cold wax right now, and the layering and scraping, just the wood panel is going to hold up a lot better. And also, I feel like I don't have to worry about it cracking eventually if I get so much wax on there. If it's a canvas, it's just more pliable. It moves around, and I'm not worried about a wood panel causing any cracking because it's not going to flex, right?
Right.
And then encaustic, you want that rigid surface for encaustic because, the wax will break if it moves. So that's the reason I use it for cold wax, though, is just the scraping process.
So what do you use as a base on top of the panel? What do you put on top of that before you start painting?
I gesso the panel.
Oh, okay. Just regular gesso?
Acrylic gesso. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Unless it's encaustic, then there's special encaustic gesso, but I don't always gesso panels for encaustic, but like for this painting, this would be gesso as the base layer. And depending what I think I'm going to do color wise, I might start with a black gesso, but most often I start with a white gesso.
Gotcha. I love this piece, by the way. This is beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, this was from, so last July for my featured show at NKollectiv when we were in the other location. I did all cityscapes for that show, and it was called Hot and Cold because I was using both hot wax and cold wax, but I wasn't doing encaustic painting. The hot was coming in with collage with encaustic monotypes. So there's one building in this piece that has the encaustic monotype collage, and it's the one on the far right, the shorter, squatter one, not the taller one that goes up above it, but that grid on that other building that has kind of that salmon colored door or whatever at the bottom.
Right here, yeah.
Yeah. So that grid is actually an encaustic monotype made on paper that I collaged into that piece.
Nice.
And so that was the first time, not this piece, but there was a different piece that was part of that same show where I tried that for the first time, and it's like, oh wow, I really love this. And so I did it with a few of the other pieces for that same show. And
so just like your landscapes, there's no reference photo for this, so this is purely imaginative?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yep, just out of my crazy head.
Yep.
It's awesome.
It is.
Thank you.
I like it a lot. I love
And
the
this
texture.
one, so I see like dystopian stuff in this one, but not, it's funny. And I love for people to just see what they see and feel what they feel. And so many people were just like, oh, I just see like it's this lovely like water and trees and in the foreground, right? And in my mind, I was like, shit is falling apart. And it is just like total dystopian, like all the stuff in the foreground is just ruins of whatever, and it's been taken over by nature. And very slowly the taller buildings are the same thing is happening to them too. But
So
I love the fact that most people were like, oh, it's just such a beautiful idyllic setting, I just want to be there. And I'm like, excellent, I love that.
it's the light colors that does that, I think. And if it was darker, I think maybe they'd feel that way too. But here's my question. So if this was a different kind of podcast, so what was going on in your head, do you think, when to create this one? Like, where were you at in your headspace?
I don't think I was in a bad place when I was creating this one so much, because it was in the spring, early summer of 2024.
Okay.
So I don't know. I think that I just am a little bit fascinated with dystopian stuff sometimes, and I don't always have to be in a bad place to channel that.
Right.
Sometimes I'm channeling it because I am in a bad place, but in this one in particular, I don't think that's what was happening. And maybe that's why people don't see that when they see the good stuff.
And I referenced this in a different video a long time ago, but Dan Fogelberg, when he wrote all his love music when he was broken up, like when he was going through a breakup. When he was in a happy relationship, it was all about breaking up. So it was just weird. Like his headspace was flipped from what he was creating.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And, I think that's probably very true, because the current show at the gallery that is up right now with my work and Melody Epperson, it's all pretty soothing for the most part, but that's not necessarily where my headspace is right now at all.
That's awesome.
So I think sometimes I need to focus on something more soothing to calm myself, right? And so that makes a whole heck of a lot of sense, actually.
It does. I mean, it does. You're like in a really bad space, so I'm going to create something that's happier. And, I could totally see that. That's a great way to put it, I guess.
Are you hopeful for the future?
Oh man, it depends on the minute or the day, because I'm really incredibly worried about the bigger picture. And so if I try to just focus on my own little bubble, which is kind of what I have to do a lot of times, I want to be really hopeful about having this place for people to come and get away from the other stuff and just come and surround themselves with art and be in a happy place. And so I have to be hopeful because I signed a 5-year lease. Had a really, maybe not the best time to do that. I signed the lease last November, right before the election.
Wow.
And like the November 1st. And because I didn't expect what happened and everything that's happening now. How could any of us expect all this crazy shit? Like it's so heartbreaking, so many of the things that are happening.
Yeah.
So honestly, there's times when I'm not hopeful at all, but I feel like I have to be.
Yeah.
Because I just got to keep going.
Yeah.
That's all you can do.
Yeah. And I listen to a lot of podcasts, so I have to be careful of who I'm listening to and what I'm listening to, because I can feel like a visceral movement depending on what I'm listening to. If it's something, I've listened to the lady that wrote a book on nuclear war, and that put me in a really bad place, and it's like, she's like, I'm moving to New Zealand. So like, I can't. So thank you for that. So there's that, right?
Yeah.
So you kind of got to be careful, but you want to be I don't know. And then I live in Rapid City, which is, it's a nice little town, and I don't get the craziness of the big city. I don't see some of the stuff that happens in a big city. So I can be kind of like myopic in my view because it's,
Mm-hmm.
sit in my back patio and go, wow, this place is nice, so there's that. Right. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Right. I mean, I don't want to totally disengage. I feel like it's important to know what's going on and to try, I've gone to a couple of protests and some of them, the bigger ones sometimes are overlapping with an event we have at the gallery, which makes me feel really strange about that. But, I feel like I have a responsibility to know what's going on. And if I see some way to do something, I just don't know what that is right now.
So the
I don't
beautiful
know.
thing is you signed a 5-year lease. There's a 4-year election term. Either craziness will end or we'll be at the beginning of the crazy third term. And then we can just say, the screw this happy place. I'm going all in a dystopia.
Right.
So,
Right.
I mean, I don't know. I think the good thing is like, you're going to be at your happy place and, hopefully everything will find some normal again after the 4 years. So maybe it'll be good on the other side
Yeah,
of your
I hope
lease.
so. It's the optimistic view, right? Yeah,
Yes, we
hope so.
try.
You have to be
Mhm.
optimistic. There's some level, and that's why I asked you that question. I'm just kind of curious, but like it's just a check-in for me because I can be very fatalistic in my viewpoint of humans and the
Mhm.
world in general, right?
Me too. Me
And I'm
too. Yeah.
like, man, all right, you gotta walk it back a step or two because
Yeah.
you're going way too far down this path, kind of like what Wes was talking about. So yeah, and it's good to have conversation about it, And then you have this beautiful outlet called art and painting, and you get to do this wonderful thing where you share this joy and these things that you create with other people. And that doesn't get
Mhm.
any better than that.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what I love about doing it, and also having a place for the other artists to be able to do the same thing. Get their art out there for people to come and find them and resonate with whatever they decide to resonate with. And that's part of the joy about all of this, for sure.
I'm going to pull up a couple other pieces
Okay.
since we're talking about mood and emotion, and Wes touched on it, is happiness. And most of what I see from you
Mm-hmm.
makes me feel happy, just so you know. It like puts me in a different mind space. I
Right.
take a deep breath. I feel that serenity that you were talking about. And I go, I want to go there. I want to go to that place.
Mm-hmm. This was one of those that I had a great experience painting this one. It came together kind of almost on its own. Like, this was one that really kind of told me what it wanted to be. It's pretty different from anything else I've done. I mean, I've done landscapes with all of these types of things in them before, but this one, just like the bigger close up of the flowers in the foreground, the abstract flowers, and then with that type of background, like those two things together, I don't think I've done that since. And I don't know why, because I really like this piece.
It's beautiful.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
And what I love about it, again, it transports me to different places where I've lived, where this kind of, scenery exists, whether it's here in Colorado or growing up in Alaska or other places that I visited throughout the West and Southwest. It just gives me pause in a very fantastic way.
Mm-hmm. And this one I painted, so not long after I started NKollectiv. So initially I started the gallery at Aspen Grove
Yeah.
down in Littleton, because they had, and this is the practical side of me. So when I first opened it, I was just looking for spaces and really like, I don't know, I can't commit to these long leases and these super large amounts of money. And somehow I found out about Aspen Grove offering really cheap short-term leasing for spaces they just wanted to fill until a longer-term client came along. And so, I mean, it was $500 a month for a big storefront.
Wow.
Yeah, it was.
That's a great platform. You know, if you got if you're a realtor or a developer, man, that's a great idea. And then you put a gallery in. That's beautiful. I love that.
So that was the first iteration of NKollectiv, and I did have my studio there in the back. So that was probably the first big painting I did in that scenario with my own gallery and my studio, just like I had been wanting to do for a while. So maybe that's why that one looks.
So how big was that piece, if you don't mind me asking?
36 high by 72.
Wow. That's pretty significant.
Yeah.
And I take it's sold. It is long since sold. Yeah. Is most of your pieces that big, or?
No, that's pretty big for me. I mean, I'd love to paint big. I had a cityscape that I just took to somebody's place that is that same exact size. And then I have another big cityscape that's in my studio now that's 48 by 60. And I do like to have at least a big one like that around or in progress at all times. But just due to space constraints, I tend to work more in like 36 by 48 or 30 by 40 type sizes, and then small sizes as well.
Yeah. Yeah. When I was looking at that piece on the screen that Todd shared, I was thinking I'd really love to sit in front of that and I kind of had envisioned a pretty big piece as well. I don't know why, but like just to set there, like today when I was going through my little crisis and just look at it, like just immerse myself in it. Todd is right. It's very calming. Just in the little piece I saw, I love that. You have another piece that has a barn in it, and it's part of your that I really like. And I don't know where it's at it's on your homepage or under landscapes, and it's yellow, blue, or kind of a grayish sky, yellow, and then you got a barn. Do you know what that one is?
I'm gonna pull it up for you, Wes.
Yeah. Do you know which one I'm talking about? Yeah,
I think I do.
That's it.
Yep. That's the one I thought you were talking about too. Shelter. Yeah. That's
Shelter.
The name of that one is Shelter.
That one. I love this one a lot. I think the barn just really does it for me, or the building. I see a barn probably because I'm South Dakota. Okay, good. I love this piece. So can you talk about this one real quick, where this came from?
Yeah. So I think I was experimenting. This is several years old with kind of that. It's interesting. If I had this piece back, I would have put it in this show just because I think it fits the vast theme. Just experimenting with that kind of minimalist way to get that sense of a vast landscape. I stopped before I normally would have on this one because it was just telling me, okay, I think this is done. And I fought with that a little bit because I'm like, it can't be done yet. Like as far as the foreground, I normally do lots of colors and more layers and things. And I had this sense of serenity in looking at it the way it ended up. Yeah.
Yeah. I love this piece. I was scrolling through your homepage and under landscapes, and I saw this and just like stopped, and it was amazing. So it was just like an intuitive gut feeling, like it's done. And then you were like, no, it can't be, but it's done. That kind of thing. Oh, man, that's so cool.
Which is good because sometimes they don't tell me when they're done, and I'm like, I don't know, are you done or not? And I have to put it in timeout for a while and turn it around, and make it face the wall, and then come back to it a few days later and look at it, and that's when I can tell, oh no, it's not done, or oh yeah, actually it's done. But this one was very adamant about telling me it was done.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And then I have to ask, because then you have to ask, right? Have you ever looked at a painting like, oh crap, I'm overdone?
Well, yes.
Like a turkey.
part of the process a lot of times is, oh, that's looking kind of nice, but it's not done yet. I'm going to keep going. And then I get to a certain point and like, oh, I fucked it up.
So the beautiful thing though, right? You can go back, you can overpaint or scrape stuff off, right?
Yeah, okay. Exactly. And that's what I've learned to just be like, oh, yep, I fucked it up, but that's okay because it's going to come back around and I'm just going to put more layers and it's going to come back and probably be even better than I thought it was before I fucked it up. Yeah.
I was going to ask you that, like in that process of going, oh shit, like I took it too far and then reworking it. Sometimes you have a happy accident, right? Like that it was actually fortuitous that it went that direction. And now I like it even more than the initial one, right?
Yep. Yeah, that does happen. Also, I have pieces that I decided after they've been around a while that, maybe it really wasn't done when I said it was the first time. And so I rework them and I call them my renovations.
Okay. That's great. So that reminds me of Todd, that guy that I don't remember who it was. We had an artist that said there's times he goes in a house that sees his painting that he wants to break out his paintbrush and just do a little bit more.
Right. That's funny.
That is funny. I love those two terms that you used. Like having a piece that's kind of like, I don't know if I'm done with this. So you put it in timeout. And then I love the fact that you have this term for these other pieces. Those are your renovations. That's excellent.
Yeah.
Yep. There's actually 2 renovations in the current show.
Is there? Okay. Well, we're going to get to that. And I want to talk about that because I'm curious now that you mentioned it. I want to talk about 2 more pieces before we kind of deep dive fully into NKollectiv. I love your flowers, your floral works. They're, there's something so lovely about them. Like when I look at this, I see it in different scenarios, right? So I see this could be like the cover of some, book, it has this kind of painterly, illustrative, soft feel to it. And it makes me I just want to walk into that scene, lay down amongst all those flowers, smell them.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Obviously, you have this botany degree and you're connected to the floral end of things. What makes you decide that you're going to like work this particular time around as like a floral? Is it just, again, that intuitive thing? Like you start mixing together different paints and start laying them on and you're like, okay, this is going to be a floral piece?
Yeah. I mean, I have done it more intentionally than that before too. Like, oh, I haven't done a floral in a while. Let's do one of these prairie looking floral scenes because they're fun and they make me happy too. But I have also sort of fallen into them as well, where I just started with kind of the layers and then find myself doing the flower game. So it can be intentional or it can just be like, oh, I guess this is what I'm doing now.
There's a lot going on in this particular painting. Do you remember the name of this one?
I don't. You're making me feel really bad about not remembering the names of my kids. I don't remember.
When you make as much work as you do, which actually kind of blows my mind, considering that you have this gallery as well, like we're going to talk about here in a moment. Spectacular, the diversity of your work. Like that's one of the things that I really glommed onto pretty early on when I was like looking at your social media over the years. You're always exploring and you're always making something different. And I appreciate that you're not like tethered to one particular thing. You have these multiple interests and multiple things that you do and you do really well, right?
Yeah, thank you. I don't know. I feel like I haven't had enough time to explore all there is to explore. Because since I only started painting about 10 years ago, I want to keep pushing and learning new things, teaching myself new things. And, there are certain types of compositions that I go back to, but I like to push it a little further.
I love the palette of this particular piece. Those are all just really yummy colors.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And then I flipped to this one, which I really love too. and this is very
Mm-hmm.
stark with not a lot of color, right?
Right.
So talk a little bit about this particular piece.
Yeah. So this one I think I just called Winter. And that was, I think, an experiment on working in more of a monotone. And I've done that since, but I have a hard time leaving a monotone. And then I end up with all these colors. I'm like, okay, the original monotone piece is gone. But this one, I was successful at staying that way. And I just loved the starkness of it and just that feeling. Again, it would fit with the vast theme for sure. And there's some pieces in it that I felt like were almost coming out at me. I love this piece. And it's nice to see it again. I haven't looked at it in a while, but there's the part where there's the dark line at the base of kind of the hills.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at that really closely, that's what I love about the oil and cold wax. Like the things that happen unexpectedly when you're scraping or layering, that to me almost looked so real that it was so much fun. Like just experimenting with those little ledges in there coming out at you. I don't know where I was in my headspace at that time. I have no idea. That was a long time ago. Who knows?
Is there texture to this because it's cold wax?
Not really.
Okay.
So that's the thing that I love about the cold wax. You can build it up to where there is texture,
Sure.
but with the process I use with the scraping, that they usually end up quite smooth, but people tend to think that they have a lot of texture.
Right.
And they'll comment on the texture, and then I'll say, why don't you touch it right there and where it looks really textured, and you'll be surprised. And they'll touch it and they'll go, oh my God, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Because it's really smooth.
Huh. Because visually it looks like there's a ton of texture in it. That's what's cool about it. Yeah.
There's a lot of visual texture to a lot of these pieces, but when you touch them, they're actually quite smooth. And some of them are even, like, depending on the amount of scraping I do, I use a drywall blade to do most of the scraping. And sometimes it can get really burnished, almost with a little bit of a shine. It almost is like a Venetian plaster finish.
Oh,
wow.
Like super smooth.
That's
cool. It is really interesting.
So I got a question that's a little different, and I'm a little off of what we've been talking about. So, we've been looking at a lot of your landscapes and stuff. Is there an artist that you look to for inspiration? Is there like one artist that kind of comes to mind when you're doing these pieces?
You're putting me on the spot here.
Oh, that's all right. And
no, that's okay. I think I get so much inspiration just from being surrounded by art at all times, like having the gallery, and just, I'll find myself walking around and picking a different piece to just stand in front of for a long time. But as far as like one particular artist with abstracts, I think especially early on, Gerhard Richter was a big, it's interesting because I'm going to kind of show my ignorance here, and probably shouldn't. But when I first started painting and I was, doing the process with the acrylics and adding different extenders to them and things to keep them wet longer, and doing the scraping through and the lots of layers and scraping, and I was using squeegees and such, I didn't know who Gerhard Richter was. And a friend of mine was like, oh, you're basically doing what Gerhard Richter does, right? And I'm like, I don't know. Am I? And I was like, who's Gerhard Richter?
So that just means it's honest. Like you came to it honestly.
I know. But
Absolutely.
Still, I was like, I don't know. And so then I looked him up and I'm like, well, holy shit. I mean, he's obviously way better and doing them huge. But once I saw his work, I was like, oh, hell yeah, that's amazing. And he's one of my favorite artists ever. And I can't wait someday to see his pieces in person, I hope. That work is nothing like the landscapes as far as first appearance, but some of the technique is still similar.
Sure.
Yeah.
This painting, Winter, has so much depth to it. That's what I really dig about it. And the fact that I grew up in an environment where wintertime, it could look pretty bleak and kind of, there's a beauty to it, but it's also very stark, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when you live in the Arctic for the majority or pivotal years of your life, and you spend a lot of time in this kind of environment, it really gives you an appreciation for the vast landscape, which is very much conveyed in this particular painting. What I love about it too, that gives its dimension, is you have these layers of stuff that is very, as a photographer, I'd call it in focus or more detailed to the softness. And there's layers of that going throughout. Did you do that on purpose, or was that kind of just happen as you were scraping and
So I think it's a little of both. I think, it started happening with the scraping, and then I went back and added some of the layers to make the pieces that look a little more in focus are the last layers, most likely, that I added to get the definition, if that makes sense. And then
yeah,
the under layers are more of what was scraped away. So like the harsher lines are probably the last layers. Like again, and that's kind of those parts I was talking about that are right under the hills
Mm-hmm.
there. And then some of that comes forward, right? In the closer foreground too.
Yeah.
it's fantastic. Really, really lovely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So back to NKollectiv. Oh, go ahead, Wes.
Nope.
Yeah, you were going to jump in there.
Nope, I wasn't.
Oh.
I asked that question about inspiration, and that's no. And then I love the fact that you went back to that piece, because that is a nice piece. It looks like South Dakota. The buttes of
and
Western
this
South
is the
Dakota.
beautiful thing about Nicole's work, I think, right? Like you can relate to it, this landscape
Oh,
in
yeah.
South Dakota. You could look at this and think, oh, that looks like somewhere in Colorado. Or
Right.
I
Oh,
look
yeah.
at it, thinking about my youth in Alaska
Yep.
and go, oh man, that looks like an Alaskan scene that I've seen a million times, right?
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
Yeah. And for me, I think it conjured up the San Luis Valley in
Oh,
Colorado
yeah.
because
There
I
you
did
go.
I had a big project down there in my power company career, and spent a lot of time in the San Luis Valley. So that's kind of what it reminded me of when I was done with it.
One of Todd's favorites.
Yeah. I
San
love the
Luis
San
Valley.
Luis Valley.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Hello, it's Todd Pearson. Wes Brown and I want to cordially invite you to Art and Ag 2025. The Fleischer Family Farm, in conjunction with the Tenant Podcast, present our annual art festival, Art and Ag, Saturday, September 20th from 10 to 4. Located at 2005 South Zephyr Court in the heart of the Southern Gables neighborhood, come experience this magnificent setting where you can buy farm fresh produce, peruse beautiful art, and support local artists. We have a stellar lineup participating in this year's fest, so come help us usher in fall with good food, good friends, and gorgeous art. Stay tuned to our social media for more details, and in the meantime, check out the Fleischer Family Farm website at fleischerfamilyfarm.com. Tell all your friends, and we'll see you at the farm September 20th for Art and Ag 2025. We thank you for your support.
I'm Nicole Korbe, and you're listening to the Tenant Podcast.
So NKollectiv, you start off with the space in Aspen Grove.
Mm-hmm.
You think to yourself, oh my God, it doesn't get any better than this. Like I can have like a short-term lease at a really reasonable rate, and I have a large studio space to work out of, and I get to curate my own gallery of my work and then some of your friends' work, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's pretty much exactly how that started. And it gave me the low risk opportunity to try out the business model. And when I signed the lease in December of 2021, I think like on December 8th, and I was like, oh my gosh, we have to try to get open for the holidays. So one of the artist friends that I said, hey, you're going to help me do this, right? And he's like, yeah, totally. And so we painted and got that place hung with all the art. I just like looked around. I was like, you want to bring art? And they're like, yeah. So we got the art there, got it up, and opened on December 12th, I think. I'm pretty sure it was that timeline, something very similar to that, like just a handful of days. Yeah, it was a great way to try it out. I knew that really wasn't where I wanted it to be long term. and it wasn't really the ideal spot for it, but it was a really great way just to see how it was going to work.
And how much square footage did you have? I went in there one time and I was just like, wow, that's amazing that, that you started this gallery and, it was in Aspen Grove, which
Mm-hmm.
has a little bit of a cachet to it as far as like shopping centers. And, shopping centers has kind of gone away, but
Right.
that one is still upscale and the majority of the places are full.
Yeah, they are. Well, I'm not sure what's going on there now because they were going to demolish part of it and do a whole other project. But yes, at the
Oh.
time, most of it was full except for where we were. We were in the no man's land, which was part of the problem. But yeah, that was square footage. I think was about 1,600 there,
That's a good amount of
including
space.
yeah, including the backspace. I think the backspace was maybe like 400, and then the rest was just the storefront portion.
Nice.
Yeah. And how long were you there?
I think 8 months. Yeah, we moved to Santa Fe, to the Santa Fe location in the art district on Santa Fe in August of 22.
And so cheap rent, $500 a month.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what most people pay for a studio space, a small studio space. So having that kind of space is pretty spectacular.
Yeah, the caveat to that is the utility bills were also about $500 a month.
Holy cow.
Yeah, so that was a thing. But still, I mean, for that size of a retail space, that's still really low.
Yeah. Did you know that on the front end of things that that's what you were looking at utility wise?
No, I didn't.
It's funny. Yeah.
I did not.
Nobody thinks about that.
No, well, I was like, oh, it'll probably be a couple hundred, but yeah, it was super high ceilings and just not a well insulated building, and yeah, there was a breeze coming in through the front door at all times, even when it was closed. So yeah, it was a leaky space.
That's funny.
So beyond that, what did that first experience, that first location, what did that teach you as far as like the gallery side of things?
So, it definitely, it taught me that, which I kind of already knew this, but it reiterated the fact that, you can never predict when sales are going to happen, which is not something that's ever going to change. I don't think. You just can't predict it. It did teach me that I really loved having my studio in the same place as, if I'm going to have a gallery, I really like having the studio there too. Because I wasn't sure if that would be a good thing or a bad thing because the just distractions. But I did decide that that's what I really liked. And that, I wanted to pursue. The main thing it taught me is that I wanted to pursue it further in a different location that was more well suited to selling art.
So because of where it was located, kind of in that south end of things at Aspen Grove, you didn't get as much foot traffic as you anticipated?
Yeah, we didn't really, people hardly came over to that one little section because it was off by itself, separated with the road that goes through the shopping center. It was separated from the rest of it. So Tattered Cover wasn't very far, but nobody went to Tattered Cover and then walked over to us. Like, just either they didn't know we were there or they just, it just didn't happen. So there was no real foot traffic. If people came, it was because they saw that we existed. They saw it online or something like that for the most part.
Did you start getting a little bit of word of mouth in that 8 months that you were there?
Yeah, we did. And when people did find us, they were excited because they were like, oh, it was great to have something like this on the very south side of town. And there was another gallery there too already. The Rocks Art Gallery is there. It's a co-op that's been there for quite a while. They're actually a nonprofit too, I believe, but they're kind of over. It would have been nice if we could have been next to each other maybe, but they were over in the other corner. So, still it was, some people came in because they were going to Rocks and somebody would tell them that we existed. So that was nice. But yeah, it just wasn't the ideal spot.
Now you've been doing the art thing for a little while. Did you know how much work it would be to have this gallery?
I had a sense of it just from my involvement at Artists on Santa Fe. You know, I was a part of that gallery for over 4 years and pretty involved there. And so that helped me have a good understanding of
Yeah,
what I was getting into.
that actually was probably a really important experience because I think a lot of people go in kind of naive about it and don't really have a sense of how things work.
Hmm.
And they realize real quick that it's a lot of work, right? And
Yeah, it
you got to
is.
wear a lot of different hats, like you were saying.
So many hats. And I think, you know, my project management background helps too, right? From even though totally different types of projects, but I see the gallery and the business is just, it's one giant project with different facets to it that you can like divide up into smaller projects. So,
Yeah, that makes total sense.
Yeah.
Because you had to multitask as a project manager, right? Because you always
mhm.
had multiple projects, I assume.
Yep.
Same thing with a gallery. There's all these little things, and you just kind of figure out where the most important part of your energy needs to be expended towards at that moment and divide and conquer, right?
Exactly. And I think, you know, over the years and moving into this spot, like there's even more of everything, but I've gotten better about figuring out how to identify the priorities and tackle it without getting too overwhelmed very often. I still find myself overwhelmed every once in a while and then have to like make myself come down from that and be like, it's fine. It's going to be fine. Just, I've been a little bit better about delegating too, which is, that's always been a little hard for me. I'm a little bit of a control freak. So,
Yeah,
um, you know, I'm getting better about that. So that's
that's
good.
legit. And that is a
Yeah.
hard thing to be able to, say, hey, do you mind doing this for me? Or can you take on this task?
Hmm.
So you were talking about identifying the things that really need to be dealt with. What are we talking about? Because a lot of people have no idea. They just walk in, they look at beautiful things hanging on a wall or things that push their minds in a different place, right? But they're not really thinking about the day-to-day activity of what it's like to run an art gallery.
Yeah. Right. So for us, for me, here, we're on a every 1 month schedule with the shows, right? So every month we completely change this place up. And so I've gotten to the point where it's like, okay, show changeover week, all of this has to happen. But let's back up before we get to that point. And I kind of know, like, I need to get the promotions started and all the other steps that have to fall into place before that week comes. Because if I wait till that week, it's just batshit crazy.
Right.
So I've gotten a lot better about just, you know, each week kind of has different tasks. Like when I do my MailChimp newsletters and, you know, trying to be better about doing social media posts when I come in before I get distracted, like at least 3 times a week. And doing the press release on time and getting all the photos and harassing the artist to send me the photos well before I need the photos. You know, because
Right.
there's a lot of things that I have to get from other people too. And yeah, I would say the promotion side of it is the hardest to kind of stay on top of, and the most important part to have a good schedule for.
Are you doing all this work by yourself, or do you have a team that kind of you can parse out the stuff?
Right. So I don't have any employees, but some of the artists help out. So the model of the gallery is a little different. It's kind of like a co-op in the sense that some of the artists help out, and I have some artists that want to work shifts. Some of the artists that are part of the gallery don't do any work for the gallery at all. They have a different commission arrangement if they don't help out. One of my artists, Michelle Messenger, is an amazing graphic designer. That's what she does, besides making great art. And so she is a huge help with all the graphics and things like that. And then I've tapped into Melody for, she's been helping me kind of chase down some of the promotion side and advertising side and helping me do some research there. Yeah, I do have help and I have to now. And that's what I realized. Like I was doing so much of this all by myself and it's too much. And I don't want to get burned out,
Right.
it's really easy to get burned out.
And it's got to be a full-time job, right? I mean,
oh, it's like 2 full-time jobs at least.
And then on top of it, you're an artist that's creating.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, wow.
Yeah, it's a lot, but and I say it a lot, it's very cliche, but it's a labor of love, but I want it to stay that way. And it's definitely lots of labor and lots of love, but it's, I want it to stay that way. So I'm trying to get a little bit more balance going on for myself, for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
And I've started having other people help me hang shows more often because in the past, I did that all myself too. People would just bring all the art in and I'd hang it all. And when we were on Santa Fe, the square footage was only about 900 square feet. So it was a little more manageable. It was still a lot of work, but it was more manageable. This whole space is over 4,000 square feet. The gallery portion is probably, I don't know, about 2,000 square feet, maybe, or more, probably. So it's a lot to hang. So I've definitely gotten over I got to do it all myself type thing. And now I always try to line up at least 2 artists to help out when we're hanging. So
in that moment where you're starting to feel burned out, what do you do? What do you do to reset yourself?
That's when I have to go for a walk. Usually with my dog. Near my house, there's a wonderful park, and I have to just get back out there and think about the fact that, it's all going to be okay. And that's when I can think about, okay, who can I ask for help and with what? As far as when I get overwhelmed, I don't know if I really have hit a point of feeling burned out. I definitely hit the overwhelm sometimes, but I don't think I've felt burned out necessarily.
That's good.
Yeah. And then if I get myself back in my studio too, that helps.
Helps reboot you.
Mm-hmm.
So you go from Aspen Grove back down into the art district on Santa Fe.
Mm-hmm.
Smaller space.
Mm-hmm.
Talk a little bit about the time that you were there, for how long, and what changed from the Aspen Grove location to being back in the art district.
So definitely the energy, right? You're in an art district and you're back around a concentration of art spaces, which is always lovely, around people who are coming down there specifically to look at art and to wander the art district. But I will say the foot traffic still wasn't great. I mean, there's the first Friday, we would get sometimes thousands of people in on first Friday over a period of 4 hours. That doesn't always translate to sales. It's fun and it's great to have a lot of conversations with people. It's also very exhausting, but it's good energy. I love the art district. I feel like that's where I really was able to grow as an artist. And I didn't want to leave there. But yeah, it was definitely better than being at Aspen Grove in the respect that at least, it is an art district and you're around that energy, which is great.
Smaller space. You said 900 square feet?
Yep. Because we only had the main floor. So the building owner still kept her own space upstairs. She didn't really use it, but she had space up there for her studio. And then there's another artist that rented upstairs as well, that he's a photographer, Anthony Camera. You probably know Anthony.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's great.
He is great.
Yeah.
He's funny.
He's awesome. He's hilarious. Yes. Absolutely hilarious.
I didn't realize that's where his studio was, though. So that's kind of cool. So more foot traffic, better sales.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's we did have better sales, but it's hard to tell. Like if we had stuck it out at Aspen Grove, would we have gotten the name recognition there and the location recognition, and maybe it would have grown too. But yeah, better sales, but still that really unpredictable, like 1 month could be really good and the next month could be almost nothing type thing, which that's just the nature of the art business. That's what I've come to realize. Yeah.
And then the location within the art district, how did you feel about that?
We were definitely on kind of one end of the concentration of galleries, but I thought it was still pretty good location. We were in the 900 block, very close to 10th, but right across from the MCA. So there's definitely still things happening at that end. So I don't think it was a bad location. The building itself, the space itself was beautiful.
Yeah.
It really was a gorgeous space. So.
Yeah. So you had a lot of cross-pollination within, the other galleries and businesses right there in that section of Santa Fe.
Yep. Yeah. It wasn't, it was on the end, but it was still in it. If we had been 1 block further north, I think it would have been too far out. But I think where we were, it was a good spot.
And during this time, and you were there for how long? How many years?
Just over 2 years, I guess.
Okay.
So yeah, from August of 22 to December of 24.
And during this time, you're really cultivating a whole community of people around you. Like I saw this happening in real time. Like all of a sudden, like, somebody that we know would be showing at your gallery or part of a group show. And I was like, that's cool. That's cool that these people are connecting, right? And some of them were from out of, that art district and out of Denver proper, right? You had like somebody like Shannon Mello who was showing work in your gallery from the Springs. So you were developing a pretty far reach.
Yeah, I think, what's wonderful about Denver and probably most communities, once you delve into it, is that there's so many amazing artists here in Denver and beyond, right? Colorado Springs, Colorado in general. And it's just so fun to develop all these relationships along the way, this whole journey. That's what, I mentioned before, that finding the tribe and then just, being part of this amazing community of artists. And I've met so many people, and I wish I could have them all here. It's like, that's why I do like mixing it up. And I think we're going to do this a bit more going forward with shows where we have more guest artists. The show, I think you came in at the end of it, right? Last month.
Yeah, the +1 show.
The +1 show, that was really fun. I know we're not the first to do that, but it was such a fun thing to do for our summer group show, is because we had the extra space. It's like, hey, everybody pick another artist that you want to show with you. And it was so great to have that other energy come in. And yeah, it was so fun. I loved it. So I want to make that a regular thing for sure. And maybe make it 2 months long so that I don't have to switch it.
There you go.
There you go.
I mean, that was a lot of work. I mean, that was a huge show.
It was a lot of work. And, I think when you have that many guest artists too, it's nice to have it up for a little bit longer, because why not? So we might start doing that. Maybe it's just going to be every 2 years instead of every year, but I think I definitely want to do that more.
I'll just say that show was solid and knocked my socks off. Like I really loved, looking at the diversity of all the work, but also who people picked their +1s. Some people knew these people. Some people just had a little bit of an idea, right, of who they were asking to be their +1. But it was a wonderful show.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty spectacular too. It was really fun.
What other shows have you put together in the last couple of years that have become like an annual event or annual show?
Right. So the main one has been our Apis Opus show, which is it started out as a encaustic, specifically encaustic, and now it's also includes cold wax. So now it's beeswax in general. So the name came from Apis, which is the genus of bees, because again, nature nerd. So Apis is bee, and then opus, work of art. So Apis Opus, and it's just fun to say. The first year we did it was just encaustic, and it was an invitational. So we just selected some artists that we knew. I believe Shannon was in that one. I think I reached out to her for that one. Don't even remember where I first met her now, but yeah, I love her. She's so great.
Yeah.
So we had a handful that we invited, and then the next year we made it an open call, but just locally and not like any big production, like didn't put it out there on the call for entry site. And then it's just gotten bigger each year. So this last one was actually a national open call on the call for entry website cafe. And we had artists from all over the country. It was so fun. And again, that's the one we opened it up to cold wax also.
Nice.
What's the catalyst of you leaving the art district once again and moving to South Broadway in your current location?
Right. So familiar story. Our rent went up. I had a 2-year lease is all I had there. When I moved from Aspen Grove to that location, the building owner was like, we don't need to do a lease. And I said, yes, we do. So we settled on just a 2-year lease. And towards the end of it, she said she wanted to double the rent.
Wow.
So I couldn't really double what I was doing with the space. It was only 900 square feet. And so I was like, this isn't going to really be feasible. So I started looking around and wanted to stay in the art district. That was my initial goal. So I started looking at whatever spaces were empty there and quickly realized that that was just not going to be feasible. To be fair to the landlord at that spot, she did give me a pretty good deal in that first 2 years. It was under market rate, but again, it's a small space, and so that worked. But yeah, I quickly realized there was no way I was going to be able to find something else in the art district, and probably not even in central Denver. And so I saw this sign on this building as I live close to here, and I would come down here a lot to eat at a restaurant or whatever. And I saw the sign and called and fell in love with it at first sight, even though I was really reluctant to even look at it when I found out it was upstairs. Because that's a thing, right? We're not fully accessible.
Right.
So I told the broker, I was like, nah, I don't want to look at it if it's upstairs. And he and I had worked, I had looked at another spot with him in central Denver. So he knew what I was trying to do. And he insisted, and he said, I think you really, really, really need to see the space because I know what you want to do, and it's perfect for it. And I was like, okay, fine, I'll look at it, but I'm not going to like it. So met him, I came up the stairs, and I was like, holy shit, I think this is it. And because it is upstairs, it's more affordable per square foot, right? Still not really, it's not cheap because it's a lot of square feet, but it's per square foot, it's more affordable, and it's big enough that I can sublet studios and do some different things with it and have a more flexible, more flexibility to change it up if I need to. So
you're renting space, studio space in addition to having a gallery?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. How many studio spaces?
There's 5 total, including mine. So I'm renting out 4 other spaces. And that's why there's kind of confusing branding with the space. I decided to name the whole space EASEL, Inglewood Art Studios Events and Lessons. And then NKollectiv is basically the anchor of the space along with the studios. And, we want people to rent out the space to teach or to have other events here because it really is spectacular. There's a huge kitchen, which I'm sitting in right now, actually. And there's skylights everywhere. We wouldn't have the natural light if we were on the first floor.
Right.
So there's all these bonuses that we get by being upstairs. And it is still a thing for me. I'm not super happy about not being 100% accessible, but it is what it is. And I want to do some partnerships with some of the other places around here to maybe get some art down on the main level somehow. But it's a beautiful space.
It really is. So describe for our listeners what they're going to see when they come to NKollectiv, and they haven't visited yet, and I just recently did myself. You're missing out, and you really need to shake a leg and get down to South Broadway and check everything cool that's going on in this space.
Yeah. Well, first of all, this in the neighborhood, it's great. There's a lot going on, great energy. And then you see our door and you see these beautifully rainbow colored stairs that just draw you up to an amazing old building with historical charm. I think it used to be offices originally. So there's these gorgeous transom windows. The building was owned by a stained glass artist, and there's stained glass everywhere that's still left from her. She and her husband used to live up here. And it's light and it's bright, and there's a huge variety of art from 18 different artists at all times. Even if just a couple of us are in a featured show, the rest of the artists still have their work up. And working artist studios where you can get to know the artists and see how they do their work. And if you want to go sit out on a big back deck, we got that too, with a mountain view.
It really is spectacular. And then that kitchen that you're sitting in doing this interview is out of this world. I'm like, damn, I wish I had that kitchen in my house.
Yeah, it's huge. And yeah, the cabinets with the leaded glass with all the iridescent stuff. I suppose I could turn the computer or the tablet around so Wes could see it, but
that's right. Yeah.
And talk about the galleries, because you have multiple rooms within the space.
Right. So we have 2 really large gallery spaces, and we do whatever the featured show is in one of those. And then the other one is for the rest of the artists to have their work. The hallway itself is also part of the gallery because it's nice and wide and has 2 huge skylights in it. And then there's a smaller room at the back that we either have overflow work in, or we are trying to also rent that out to other artists so we can have guest artists in here at all times. That's my goal, is to rent out wall space, or people can rent out the whole room for their own exhibition for a month at a time or more. I originally wanted to rent that out as like residency style studio space, which I'm still open to doing that as well. But yeah, so the gallery, there's a lot of gallery space. The 2 big rooms, the hallway, and then the back auxiliary gallery.
And you're really calling this kind of an art hub, right?
Yep. I think that's what it is. I mean, it's a place, with the studios and the gallery, and it's a good community space for artists or anybody else just to come and hang out. And we have had some art classes here already, and I hope to get more folks in here to teach whatever they want to teach. We've got a watercolor class coming up in September from Tiffany Erdmanzik, who's one of our artists. And we're going to have some yoga here, I think, pretty soon too. That's in the works with a couple people that want to rent it out to do some yoga classes. So, and also some Qigong. That's going to happen in September. Some Qigong classes, which I did not know what that was, but it's like Tai Chi. But
okay.
Yeah.
So that's spectacular. And I love the pairing of, like yoga and art, I mean, that's a great outside the box thing. I mean, there's probably somebody else that's out there doing it, but I've never thought of it before. And yeah, I'd be down for taking a class, doing some yoga and surrounded by beautiful things. So what challenges, because you've been there for almost 8 months now, is that right?
So the gallery opened in January here. I did sign the lease in November, and we had some pop-ups over the holidays, but then the gallery didn't really open until mid-January here. So yeah, about 8 months. And I mean, the challenges I would say are the same challenges we've faced everywhere, which is just getting people through the door. And foot traffic down here in the neighborhood, I feel like is probably the best we've had yet, out of all the locations, because there's a lot of different things going on right here, especially on this block. But still getting people to come up the stairs, and check us out. That's that's always the hardest part, is getting people through the door. And once they come in, they're super excited. So that's really the main challenge, getting people to know we're here. So we are doing, I think we talked about this already, not on the podcast yet, though. We're doing second Saturdays down here.
Yeah, I saw that.
Instead of first Fridays, because there's so much going on first Fridays already in the metro. So let's not give people one more thing to choose between, and we'll just give them something additional to do. So I reached out to Haley at Seesaw Gallery and Timmy, who runs Blue Tile Gallery, and we kind of put our heads together and came up with the second Saturday. And we've reached out to all kinds of different small and creative businesses in the area. And we've got almost 30 businesses that are signed on to participate. Not all of them participate every month, but a good amount. I think we've had like about, on average, 15 so far. I was just looking at my list, 15 or so, 15 to 20 that have been participating monthly. And the city of Englewood has been incredibly supportive, and they've even given us some funding to help promote the second Saturday events. And yeah, it feels like such a good spot.
Right
Nice.
on. I'm
Yeah.
so happy for you. I'm so excited for you.
Thank you. Thank you. Me too. We're just fingers crossed that the apocalypse isn't right around the corner.
No.
Not
What?
good. Oof.
We don't need to revisit that thought.
But it's what I can't help it, though, when I think about how happy I am with this space and with where we are and how supportive the community is and everything. It's all so happy that I'm like, oh God, I got to bring myself down somehow.
Right. You can't, you got to let the chips fall eventually.
Yeah.
So.
And I'm like, yeah, because then I think about, well, it all could change really quickly, but I'm fingers crossed that it's going to be great for at least 5 years.
Right.
It is going to be great. And I think in another 5 years, people will look back and go, wow, like NKollectiv moved here and then all of a sudden things start popping. That's what I see because of what you're facilitating and what you bring to that neighborhood, that you will encourage other people to explore and be part of that particular community.
Yeah.
You said you represent about, or you show about 18 artists. Is that what you said previous?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Now, I don't want people to think that this is all just painting in the gallery, that it's very diverse. So talk about the types of art that people can see when they come.
All right. So yeah, we've got all kinds of things. So lots of 2D work, all kinds of paintings, but also a fine art printmaker. And for 3D work, we have a steel sculptor and 2 ceramic artists. What am I forgetting? Oh, Craig with his woodworking also. So Craig makes amazing furniture and also vases and other home decor items out of reclaimed wood. And it makes it feel a little more homey in the gallery too. You know, I've got some furniture and other things. And yeah, it's a great variety of stuff.
I came to the opening the other night and people were like, doing what they normally do in galleries, milling about, having conversation, but also, like you said, there was a nice place you could sit down and just kind of immerse yourself for, a few minutes in a comfortable spot and just take it all in.
Yep. We still have the orange couch. That's kind of become, that couch has been with us at every location. The bright orange couch.
That's a signature piece.
I think it is. Yes. And it looks very retro and vintage, but don't tell anyone it's not. But yeah, it's pretty cool.
It is cool. Yeah. Especially because it's orange.
Mm-hmm.
So this leads me to your exhibition that opened this past weekend. It's called Vast. Talk about why it's called Vast and who is showing with you.
Yes, so it's Melody Epperson and I think Melody's been on your podcast at least twice. And she is phenomenal, as you know. And she's been working a lot with materials that she collects from farms. And so for her, she wanted to do something that was, inspired by prairie and kind of that agricultural and the farm part. She's been making her own inks with those materials she collects. And then for me, I was going to focus on my natural landscapes, many of which have that vast feeling to them. So she came up with the name, and I said, that sounds great. I love it. And I think it's a great show. I think our work complements each other really nicely. And I'm really happy to be showing with her.
I got there early and it seemed like a really great turnout. And by the time I actually had some conversation and kind of took a turn in the main room where your exhibition was, I was seeing red dots all over the place, which is
Yes,
really wonderful. I was
it
like,
is.
that was so happy for me to see that, because I was like, dang, like I've been here an hour and there's all these pieces I've already sold. And this whole instance, this whole thing was pretty spectacular. Like you were telling me the story. So talk to me. This is the power of art. Talk to me about
Mhm.
how at least one of the big sales came about, and also some of the smaller ones, all
Mhm.
kind of interconnected.
Right. Yeah. So it was pretty cool. It was before the reception started, but at about 2:30 or so, this couple walked in and they were celebrating their 39th wedding anniversary. And they had been looking for something artsy or cultural to do. And she said she had been online just looking up different things. And I'm not sure which website she saw it on, because Amy Norton's really good about getting the word out for us with our press releases. But she saw it somewhere and they decided to come check it out. They live in Centennial, so on the south side of town. And they were so lovely. They are so lovely. They're just this wonderfully gentle couple that they spent probably at least an hour here looking very closely at everything and talking about the pieces that they both liked and what they wanted to take home with them at the end of the show, what they wanted to purchase. And so they picked out several of Melody's small pieces, one of my small pieces, and decided they would do those. And then they also liked one of my larger pieces, but they had to go home and measure. And so Bill, it was Mary and Bill are their names. And Bill said, okay, Nicole, if we don't just buy this now, but we go home and we measure, if we call you right away, can you put a red dot on it? Because we don't want anybody else to get it. And it was just adorable. And I was like, of course. And so they called and there it is, that piece. And so they called back pretty quickly, and Mary called and I heard Bill in the background, tell her to put the red dot on it. Don't let her not put the red dot on it. It was really cute. So anyway, that really made my day for sure. Made the opening reception pretty spectacular, even though it wasn't even during the reception. But yeah, it was fantastic. And that's what I love. I love it when people walk in and they just are so, whether it's my work or not. I mean, most often it's not, honestly. But, I just love it when they walk in and they just get lost in all the things that they want to explore. And then they find something that resonates with them, whether they buy something or not. Just that whole experience of people resonating with something that somebody has created is magical. Absolutely magical.
That's a great piece. I like this one.
Thank you.
What's the size of this?
22 by 48.
Nice.
And this one is called
B.
B.
B-E. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I walked around the corner because I was taking in Melanie's work as I walked through the door, and then it transitions into your work. And I immediately was enthralled with this piece, and I looked down and I saw that little red dot, and I was like, right on. Like,
Thanks. Yeah.
yeah, that feeling of watching somebody fall in love, right, with a piece of
Yeah.
art is pretty amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And that whole experience, when you told me that story, I was like, gives me chills. Like, that's right on. Like, they made the trek to Inglewood from where they live in their neck of the woods, right? And sought you out and then fell in love and then didn't just buy one piece, they bought multiple pieces. It doesn't get any better than that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's wonderful. Yep. So those are the times I feel very optimistic for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And rightly so. Yeah.
I want to pull up this piece because I think
that's an amazing piece. Saw that too,
I knew you were
man.
going to say it. So Wes and I have very similar taste a lot of times. It's not like we always agree but I would say at least 85 to 90% of the time we will glom on to the same thing. Yeah. And so I does not surprise me that he was like, I love that piece.
Yeah. That's great.
So talk a little bit about this one.
Yeah. So this one was a bit of an experiment with, and sometimes I do this when I'm working on other pieces and I have the colors, the palette I'm using, and I'll decide to just use kind of the leftover paint to get a new one started, right? And so I had these 3 panels and that's basically what I was doing at first, was just laying down the leftover, that really light, creamy, pale yellow color. And then I had the Payne's gray left and I thought, oh, maybe this could be some kind of more abstract piece, and just kind of went across all 3 panels with with the really big swath and then the small swath at the top. And then I was like, I really like it already. And so I left it alone. I put it in timeout. And then people kept coming in saying, I really love that. I'm like, yeah, I do too. And so I have done compositions similar to this in the past that I also really loved, that minimalist, abstract, but still kind of suggestion of a landscape. And I titled this piece, What's Next? Because this is the direction I'm going to try to rein myself in and go into next for a while. Because I really love it. I love the simplicity, but it also just conjures up, feelings.
Yeah.
Different feelings for different people, for sure. But yeah, this one makes me feel like exploring things.
Well, I'm excited to see where you go with this, because I love this piece. It looks like when I envision like living in a 50s like modern home, right? Which is like where I love that period of architecture, that modern aesthetic.
Yeah,
I could picture this piece in my living room or someplace in that house, right?
Yeah, and these are pretty small. These are only 10 by 10s, so 10 by 30 total when it's all together. And I'd like to explore this in a bigger format.
So have you done triptychs before?
I've done diptychs a lot, but I'm trying to think if I have done any triptychs. I don't know that I have.
Okay. It's really cool. I really like this one. That the swath at the top really does it for me. And then the little bit of orange on the panels, there's something about that as well that I just like really attracted to. So yeah, this is good.
Yeah. And I often do, so if I have a lot of horizontal, then I'll try to balance it out with the vertical, right? So I've got very faint vertical lines in there just to kind of draw your eye up. But yeah, but still not overboard. It's so minimal. Yeah. I love it.
Yeah. It's fantastic.
And this one's titled, What is Next? And you can find that under the vast exhibition with all of Nicole's and Melody's paintings for the show. And then I'm going to pull up one more because I think Wes will appreciate this one as well. And it is...
I knew you were going to pull up that.
Oh, that's funny.
So this is called Not So Badlands.
There you go. I live in South Dakota, pretty near the Badlands. So, so nice title. This is a great piece too. Yeah.
Thank you.
Your landscapes are really fun. I like them a lot.
Thank you. Yeah. Again, it's kind of that soothing thing going on in this one for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you were kind of talking about this one to me when we were in the gallery. Tell our listeners a little bit more about it, because you said this was the one, if I remember correctly, that you said kind of fought you because you were actually thinking specifically of a place, right?
I was. And it did fight me a little bit. So this is not South Dakota in my mind, but
Right.
it's totally South Dakota in whoever else's mind that wants it to be South Dakota, or that's what they see, and that's fantastic and just fine with me. But this actually was inspired by the mountain that I grew up at the base of in northwest New Mexico. And it's an old volcano, and so there's lava flows all over the place out there. It's actually called El Malpais National Monument, which Malpais in Spanish means Badlands. And the mountain, which is what was on the horizon line there, was just not working out with the rest of the composition. It just wasn't working. And so then I thought, oh, I'm just going to make that a big old badland in itself of a different kind, because it doesn't look like the black basalt that results from the volcano. So it's no longer the place that I intended it to be, which just tells me I should just not ever intend things to be a certain place. It tells me just go with the intuitive thing and don't, and then just be surprised when it looks like a place that you recognize. But I'm being facetious because sometimes I do commissions for people of specific places and it works out just fine. But yeah, so that's kind of the story behind this one. And that's why, kind of that striation that you see in the foreground is so dark, because in my mind, that was sort of the lava outcroppings that still exist out there in that area.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's nice. I like that.
This exhibition runs through the 31st of August, correct?
It does. And
go ahead.
We still have a couple more events that are left for the month. So second Saturday, we're going to do a second reception from 4 to 8. And Melody is going to do a little make and take session where you can make some art with her inks and take it with you. She'll be doing that from 3 to 4 on second Saturday, so August 9th. And then we're going to do a closing reception also on the 31st. So that's Sunday, the 31st, from 2 to 5, I believe, or 3 to 5. I can't remember exactly. And Melody's going to do another something with her inks. This time she's going to do a demo on how she makes those inks out of plants. The ink making demo is from 3 to 4 on the 31st. So, and the closing reception is 2 to 5 on the 31st.
Excellent. And you read my mind, Nicole, because I was just going to ask you, like, what kind of programming do you have around this exhibition here? Yep. So perfect. And I do want to ask a question for you. Everybody's business model is a little bit different, but so you come in, and the lovely thing about NKollectiv is there's something for everybody. And I always appreciate that too. Like, you don't have to spend thousands of dollars per se. You can definitely spend thousands of dollars if you want to, but there's something for everybody. There's very affordable, beautiful pieces of art in the gallery. But if somebody comes in, like, say they want a more expensive piece that, maybe they don't have $3,000 right now, and I'm just throwing a number out. Do you work with people? Is there like a way, like a layaway of sorts or anything like that? Like, you put a percentage down, then you can pay it off in a certain amount of time?
Yep, absolutely. Because I completely understand that conundrum. And so, yes, we absolutely will do a payment plan. And another thing that I like to do for people, if they're interested, especially in large pieces, because it's a big decision to make, is I will take the piece over to them and to their home, and they can live with it for a little bit before they fully commit to it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome.
Have one of my big cityscapes somewhere right now.
So does that seem to like increase the possibility of sales? Then once they see it on their walls, like, do you have more people buy it than not buy it?
Yes. I've never had anybody, once it's been on their walls, say that they don't want it. And that may happen someday, and that's absolutely fine if it does. But usually if they, unless it's just not the right size or something, I think they usually end up liking it. Yeah.
Do you feel, how much of a risk is it? I mean, I guess this is all probably insured or whatever, and you know where they live. And
yeah, and I can get their credit card information from them. So that's something that I don't think it's too uncommon for galleries to do it, but at Artists on Santa Fe, Macy would do that a lot, and he would actually take the old-fashioned imprint of the credit card, with the little carbon copy. I don't think it's high risk.
Okay.
Eventually, maybe something will happen that proves me wrong on that. But yeah, I guess insurance maybe is for that. But
and then how long do you how long does people hang it and then make a decision? Is it fairly quickly?
Usually, I'll say they can have it for a week, and then decide. But yeah, for example, the one that I just dropped off the other day, they're going up to the mountains and they're going to come back. So they'll probably have it for a couple of weeks before they decide. But
nice. I think that's a cool model, because I can totally see where somebody, once they hang it, you're done. You're sold. You might as well just write the check now, because that's not coming off my wall. Right.
Right.
I think that's a no-brainer, actually.
And then I would ask you, and we ask this question a lot, how do you go about pricing your art personally?
So at this point, I use a per square inch formula. And when I first started out, I had no idea. Right. And I just sort of was winging it, just being on the low end of what I would see out there, and try to match myself up with other artists that were out there selling their work that were also really new, and just tried to find something that made some kind of sense, because I didn't know it's something that's very transparent or that people really ever tell you how to do. Then I think I was talking to somebody about it, and they said, just use a formula per square inch. I was like, what? Really? So that's what I started doing, but it doesn't really work perfectly, because sometimes the really small ones and the really big ones get really skewed. So it works well for a range kind of in the middle. And then if it seems like it's too much or too little, I just try to make it what seems fair for both parties. Mm-hmm. But typically it is per square inch.
And you're really smart, because you offer a wide range of different sized works, and very affordable to, larger works that are more expensive. And I think that is, unless you're some blue chip artist, but every artist should incorporate that, where they have something at every price point for anybody that walks in, right? You don't want to, miss a sale because you've priced a person out of the particular market or what have you.
Yeah, I feel really, it's important to me that I have art that's accessible for people, because I can't afford to spend much money on art, and I still love it and want to have some of it in my home. So it's nice to have, pieces that are affordable, and whether it's my art or somebody else's in the gallery, there's definitely, we have things all the way from $15, up into the thousands. So it's important to me.
Yeah, I like that.
I want to ask you what advice you would give somebody that is wanting to be an artist, as an aspiring artist, and especially somebody like yourself who decided to, change gears at a different point in their life and jump in with both feet. What would you say to those folks?
At the risk of sounding like a Nike commercial, I would say just do it. Just freaking do it. Put yourself out there. It can be scary, and it's very vulnerable. I wasn't very good about being vulnerable throughout most of my life, but this has made me really feel that way, and it's a good thing. It's hard at first. I would say talk to other artists and get advice. I'm always happy to talk to folks. I know other artists that actually on a regular basis love to meet with new artists and help them out, especially if it's if they're trying to decide they want to do art festivals and how to go about doing an art festival or something like that. I know people I could match them up with that love to give advice about that. That's kind of the first way I got my work out there, was doing the summer art market at the Art Student League. And I was just like, all right, I guess I'm just going to try this. I didn't have a tent. I rented a tent, shared the tent with someone they matched me up with. And it was insane. It was crazy. I sold a bunch of work. I look back at that now. I'm like, man, that work wasn't even that good, but I sold a lot of work. And so that's probably what gave me this naive idea that I could just keep going and just, buy a tent, do more art festivals, be part of a gallery, open your own gallery. I don't know, just do it. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Just get out there. You'll find your niche, but also reach out to other artists, because I think I was insecure about that at first, for sure. Like going into that first situation when I rented a studio, feeling like an outsider, like, oh, am I just somebody pretending to be an artist? And I didn't go to art school. What am I doing? But the more I talked to other artists, the more at home I felt. And I think that's huge, is just reach out to people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our friend Bob Ragland would say art is for everyone. So,
yeah.
And you have a Bob Ragland connection yourself that you told me about one day.
Yep. I was doing the modernism show and early on, and he just came in my booth and with his hat, that not a starving artist or whatever it said on it, and started talking to me about selling art and how I just need to sell art and just keep selling art. I'm like, well, that's what I'm trying to do, sell art. And, yeah, he was just so great and enthusiastic and a little kooky and awesome. It was so, I'm like, he walked out, I'm like, who was that guy? Like, I didn't know who he was. And then I think he friended me on Facebook, and I was like, oh, okay. And then I learned a little bit more about him just through social media. So it was fun. Yeah.
Right on. Yeah. He just wanted you to be successful. He was in every artist corner rooting for everyone. He just wanted you to have the freedom to live the life that you wanted to live and create.
Yep. Absolutely. Which is incredible. Like that kind of encouragement. Yeah. It's priceless.
Yeah.
And he didn't give a shit whether you went to art school or just, watch one of his PBS painting instructional shows back in the day. He just wanted everybody to participate. He was such a great guy.
Yeah.
Yes, he was.
My last question for you is, what is your idea of perfect happiness?
Ooh, is there such a thing as perfect happiness? I guess close to perfect happiness would be just having the time to make my art, go on walks, be around art, help other people connect with art, and someday retire to a vast landscape in New Mexico and do all of those things I just mentioned. Yeah.
Wonderful. Wes, you got anything else?
I usually don't have a question, but I do this. Where in New Mexico should I retire?
Oh, well, it really depends what kind of landscape you like the best, because almost everything is there except for the ocean. So what kind of landscape do you like the best?
Oh, I love the mountains. So
yeah. Taos, maybe.
All right. I got to work a little longer for the money. Taos is a beautiful area. I love.
Yeah.
The thing that blows me, I have a friend who lives in New Mexico, a girl that went to college at the same time I did. I see pictures of the sunsets and sunrises, and they're just magnificent.
Yeah, the skies in New Mexico are like nowhere else.
Right. And every time I see it, I'm like, how the hell does that happen? I don't know. Yeah.
It's magic. It's absolute magic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
it really is.
Here's a hat off to the enchantment state.
right?
Yeah.
Land of enchantment. You
There you
live on the
go.
road of enchantment. What are you
I
talking
do.
about,
I
dude?
do. I'm halfway there.
You're already on it.
I've never visited South Dakota yet, and I want to. It's
Well, come
been
to the
on my
Black
list.
Hills. That's the best part.
Yeah.
I grew up on the east side. Come to the Black Hills. And if you ever come, get my number from Todd, and I'll be glad to show you around, and we can do a little history trip and see all the fun sites, or just have a cup of coffee, whatever you want.
All right. It all sounds great.
All right. This has been fantastic. Oh my God, I had so much fun. Your stuff I could just cuddle with and just stare at for hours. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
And thank you for coming on our show, and in these troubled times, showing some light and some really calm artwork. I think we need that sometimes. So thank you.
Thanks.
Nicole, really appreciate it. I love what you're doing. I've been telling multiple people since I first went there a couple weeks ago about your new gallery and everything that's going on there. I think it's spectacular, and I'm rooting for you. Just keep doing what you're doing, and man, I'm so happy we finally got you on, because I hit you up early on in our podcast, and it just wasn't the right timing. But now, like we discussed, it feels like the right time, and so I'm so happy for everything that's going on. That's great in your life. So just keep riding that wave.
Thank you. I will definitely try to keep riding. And if I fall off, I'll try to get back up on.
Oh, I know you will. You seem like a force of nature. So I know only good things will be happening for you guys and for the gallery.
Thank
All
you.
right. On that note, don't forget to follow Nicole on Instagram at Nicole_Korbe_art and at NKollectiv, and check out our website, NicoleKorbe.com, where we talked about some of these pieces today, along with the gallery website, which is NKollectiv.com with a K and no E. And do yourself a favor, get to NKollectiv at 3485 South Broadway to check out Nicole's show with her friend and ours, Melody Epperson, entitled Vast. It's on display through the 31st of August. It's out of this world, as is all the work in the gallery. So get down there, go feed your brain and your eyeballs with good stuff. And as usual, I will have all this and more in this week's episode notes. For the Tenant Podcast, I'm Todd Pearson.
And I'm Wes Brown.
Have a great week.